Well, if you live in Los Angeles or if you live anywhere across the world, you probably were tuned in to the Emmy Awards this past weekend. Lots of folks like to go to their social media pages to see who was on the red carpet, who was the best dressed, of course, checking out who all of the winners are. And this year, I was particularly interested in the Emmys because a friend of mine was nominated, not for one, but for two Emmys. And her nominations were unusual because they are historic. Yes. When the Emmy nominations were announced for Winning Time, executive producer, director Salli Richardson-Whitfield made history as the first Black woman ever to be recognized in the drama directing category. Now, you may be scratching your head asking, how can that be? This is 2024. How can it be that Salli Richardson-Whitfield is the first Black woman ever to be recognized in this drama category, directing category? I know I asked Salli that question. She and I had a conversation leading up to the big awards night on Sunday, and I was just incredulous because it just seems like to me that this is a glass ceiling that should have been broken many, many years ago. Well, it wasn't until this Emmy nomination happened for Salli Richardson-Whitfield. Many of you know her as an actress because she worked for 20 years on film and television before stepping behind the camera. But since 2011, she has built an impressive resume tackling comedy, drama, action, fantasy, and more, working for some of the biggest streaming sites, producing some of the highest quality dramas on television. One of my favorites, which she also was nominated for last week, was The Gilded Age. We're going to talk a lot about the Gilded Age and how it is transformative and how it is making history as well. But we also will be talking in this hour about Winning Time. If you are a basketball fan, if you lived in Los Angeles or live in Los Angeles, if you are a Lakers fan, then you probably saw Winning Time. I know my producer, Robert, is a big Lakers fan. He's a big Winning Time fan as well. So we're going to talk a lot about how Winning Time became that drama series that led to Salli Richardson-Whitfield getting her first Emmy nomination and making history. And Salli, first of all, thank you for joining me, and super, super congratulations on your nomination, your history-making nomination as the first Black woman ever to be nominated in a drama category for television. It's hard for me to still believe you. And I had this conversation. I cannot wrap my brain around. We're going to talk about that. But first, just tell me, what was it like to be at your first Emmys?
It was kind of surreal. You know, you would think after, and you've been very gracious just saying 20 years. I think it's been 30 years before that. You know, I don't know if it really had sunk in until I was on the carpet and in some of these interviews. You know, most of the time, you know, we're mothers. I'm trying to pay tuition, take care of my family. And I really enjoy what I do. And this is kind of the fancy part, but really it's about the work. So it was surreal. What I did was I had a feeling Shogun was going to win. So I wasn't too, you know, I wasn't too delusional. But I did enjoy the moment. I enjoyed the moment.
Well, I followed you on Instagram, and you had the most amazing outfits, not just for the award ceremony itself, but for the parties. And again, people don't like directors. You know, the folks behind the cameras aren't the household names that, you know, talent, and you've been an actress, are. And so even just that experience of being a director that's nominated and getting to, you know, do the dress up and do all the fancy stuff. How was that for you? Because you've not been in that frontal role, that front position for 20 to 30 years since you've been acting. So how was that different?
Well, I did decide when I dressed up, I said, well, I'm gonna have to bring that inner actress back out again and bring in the hotness. But, you know, it's funny because you are treated different. Like some people will interview you, but if you're not in front of the camera, they really don't care as much. I think because of the moment and being the first Black woman and have been an actress gave me a little more press than other directors may have gotten. So I definitely felt the difference between being in front of the camera.
But it was still, you said, just surreal. Just it had to be an amazing moment. I saw you with your husband, who's also an actor, with your two children. One's in college, one's in high school. What was the moment like for them being there with wife and mom? When she's being acknowledged by her peers in this really amazing, environment and setting.
I think actually the proudest moment I had was after I had lost. And my daughter, no, really, my daughter sent me, she was, they had come, they couldn't sit with us. But she sent me the most beautiful text about how proud she was of me, how hard she knows I work, and how she knows that women, Black women in particular, are looking up to me and that I'm her hero. And it was just so, that was what was special to me, that I knew my son was up there and he knows how hard mom works. And my husband was sitting next to me and proud of me. On our way there, all my friends were over. We were like, it was like prom. I was getting dressed and we prayed before we went. And that's what it's about. It's about that community. And that's when I was really feeling how proud I was of myself and the hard work I had done.
So I read something, Salli, that said you were shocked. Like you were just going about your business. You're super busy. You're directing some new projects and you get a call. Like you weren't expecting this, right?
Absolutely not. I was sort of hoping that Gilded, which did get nominated too for Best Show, that it would get some nominations because there was a little heat on it. But, Winning Time had been canceled. So nothing about that made me think there was going to be a nomination for anything. So when my manager, Erwin, called me and said, not about Gilded, but about Winning Time, I think I said about 10 times, I just went, shut up, shut up. I just kept saying that and people thought something awful was happening. And, I was like, I'm not the most emotional person, but I almost just like broke out in tears of really this feeling of relief.
Wow.
It was like this relief that all this hard work I had been, doing and time away from home mattered.
So Winning Time, talk to us about, my producer, Rob, is a big fan of it, but for those folks who maybe missed it, because as you said, it did get canceled after only one season, right?
Two
seasons. Okay. So talk to us about, what is Winning Time about? Why would it be nominated if it gets canceled? Because intuitively you would think, oh my God, if they canceled it, it must not have been a great show or didn't attract a big audience, but maybe there's something about it that we don't know.
Well, a lot of times, sometimes the best shows, that are the critically acclaimed shows are the ones that get canceled because, you kind of come out maybe at the wrong time. We came out during, COVID was going on, all these shakeups with the studios and the expense of our show. So it was actually, as far as critically acclaimed, people loved it. It's about, I think, what is it, 84 Lakers, Celtics run and, Celtics against Lakers, Magic Johnson against Larry Bird. Like it is, this is big IP. People want to hear this story and it was so well done. And it was Adam McKay set up this beautiful show. And I mean, you have John C. Reilly and Adrian Brody and our young Magic, Quincy Isaiah. So it was a fantastic show at the wrong time, And I think that what this nomination showed is that it was we had a few. We had for cinematography, for visual effects, and I think I'm forgetting the other things, but it's a great show at the wrong time.
Right. I remember when the show came out, a lot of, controversy. Some of the Lakers weren't too happy with it. Former Lakers, the current owner, Jerry Buss, not too happy with how the team and certain characters were portrayed. Did that help or hurt the series, you think?
That was part of the issue. The players were complaining, and I get it. I always say, listen, if somebody was doing my life story and I didn't have any say in it, I might be irritated too. But, I think that, a lot of this or most of this material was picked from books that these people had written themselves. Some of the things that some of the people were complaining about were actually in their book, or books, or another player had written about it. So I think that was most of it. And I think that definitely hurt the show, because you didn't have the players behind it. But I think that our writers, they weren't trying to do a hack job on the Lakers. They really loved the team, and it was more of an homage to the Lakers.
Well, yeah, maybe those sentences buried deep in those books that didn't sell a lot of copies didn't matter until it was on the big screen. Let's talk about Gilded Age, though. That's one of my favorite shows. So talk about publicity. I remember when it came out, the publicity was so positive because of the characters, particularly the African-American characters in the Gilded Age, and how they were going to be portrayed again for the first time, seeing Black folks in this period piece with agency. Talk to us about the Gilded Age, and what do you love about that series?
That's why you see me now in this little kitchen behind me. I'm in New York shooting the third season of the Gilded Age and doing the last 2 episodes now. It's just, that really was, besides wanting to work with Julian Fellows, who obviously, Downton Abbey was such a big, and I love period pieces, but as people of color, we don't really get to be a part of that world very often. And what Julian and Sonia Warfield have designed with the Black elite world was so much fun, and I learned so much, and I was so proud of it, because it's not some other shows that sort of fantasize this, Black people in that time period. Gilded does it like factual, like this is pretty much how it was in Black Brooklyn back then. And this season, what's so wonderful is we get to explore more of the Black elite world. We get to go to Newport, Rhode Island, and see the Black elites there. So it's so much fun. And I think that because it is such a fan favorite, the Black storyline, people are going to be very satisfied this next season, because they'll get to see a lot more of it. I mean, we have Miss Felicia Rashad this season coming up. So it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that show is just amazing. I mean, the actress is Danae Benton, right? She plays the young African-American woman who's the social secretary to one of the elite families, but her own family's elite. Her dad's a doctor or something, right? Or an accountant, or some kind of entrepreneur.
Dad's a doctor, and she's a journalist.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, she had a storyline with a child. I know you can't tell us everything, but I'm so hoping she finds love and, has a love interest.
I can say nothing, but all good things happen for Peggy.
Peggy is so just amazing. So let's talk about this history making. You remember us having a conversation right before, the weekend, and I was just dumbfounded that, happy for you that you are this history maker, but almost incredulous about the fact that you would be the first Black woman nominated in this particular category. How is it in 2024 that we are still making these kinds of, history making moments that should have been like history making moments 2 decades ago?
Well, you're right. I was, of course I was excited, but I was saddened, because I'm going, are you telling me that someone like Debbie Allen hasn't been nominated, at least in this category, who's really one of the Black women who's paved the way for Black female, directors? But, what I think it is that, yes, we are working more as Black directors, male and female, but there are not very many of us who are directing on platforms like HBO, honestly. Very few, very, very few. And those are the shows that get nominated. So it's things are getting
why
better.
Is that, Sally? Why in this moment where there's obviously a plethora of qualified Black folks who are directors, why do you think they're so limited in terms of platforms like HBO?
It's just it's a small field in general to get to direct these kind of shows for white, Black, male, female, like to get to HBO is there are times like I don't even know how I got here, but but it it is the small little niche. And, honestly, there's still work to be done to move people in that area. I was, the second season of Gilded, I wasn't able to do it because I was doing Winning Time. And I brought another Black woman who is sort of I have a sort of a peer group of other up and coming directors that, we talk a lot. And I was like, okay, her name is Crystal Robinson. I was like, I think she's ready for this. And they gave her an opportunity. So it may just be people like me who give other people opportunity to get those shots. And then, because once you get one on those higher platforms, then it's easier to get the others. It's just, I don't know, but more of us need to get there.
So those of us that watch folks like you and actors or anyone that gets these kind of nominations, even if you don't win, the perception is that it just opens all of these doors, right? That you start getting calls from all the big networks and the studios, and that, you can now write your ticket. Is that fact or fiction?
Help. I think it's going to help, obviously. This just happened, so I don't, I got to see how the floodgates go. But, again, I think that what's been great for me, and I feel very blessed. This last year or two, the floodgates have already sort of opened up, and things have been going really well. But it can only help when now on my, now my resume is double Emmy nominated, and that helps anyone. So yeah, I'm hoping it gets me those movies that I want to do, or, I definitely feel there's a different level of respect when people are talking to me just about, my work and what I do. They're more apt to listen to me because I'm Emmy nominated and for such an amazing show. So time will tell. I'll let you know.
Let me know if the phones start ringing off the hook. What do you think, Salli? You talked about lifting as you climb and giving Crystal this opportunity because you weren't available. Obviously, you can't be available for all the projects. So it does, make sense that there would be opportunities to bring other people along. Do you see that happening? I mean, was that something you did and is unusual? Is this something that happens all the time?
Well, I think that I talk about the group of directors that that I have a conversation with all the time. That is our mission. Our mission is for all of us who are now showrunners and director producers on the show is to bring up as many people as we can who we feel are ready for that opportunity so that they can move up into our positions. That's the only way it's really going to happen. And, honestly, for me, HBO really took a chance for me in the beginning and brought me in and trusted me with some of their biggest shows. And they trusted me. And it was also important that they brought another Black woman into Gilded because they felt like they needed that voice. So to their testament, it wasn't just me. They wanted that voice to continue.
So what was your first project with HBO?
It was the Gilded Age, believe it or not. So for a few years before that, there were a few jobs they had called me about, and I just was always booked and couldn't do it. And then all of a sudden, Gilded and Winning Time came around the same time. And all of a sudden, I was now booked with HBO, and it turned into through working with them in these shows, it turned into something bigger. And then it turned into an overall deal with them. So, when opportunity finally comes, I always say this to people, you better be ready to knock it out the park. And because it's not going to come again. So I took advantage of the opportunity, and it really grew into now this Emmy nomination.
You talked about lots of interviews leading up to the award. I want to talk now, though, about Hollywood, Black Hollywood. So many of my friends who work in Hollywood, African Americans, are crying the blues, saying there's no work, that the industry has changed so dramatically, a reduction in the number of episodes, even when you get a season, the use of AI, and a sense that promises that were made after George Floyd's murder in 2020 have not been kept. Particularly promises around expanding the number of Black folks working both in front of and behind the camera. What do you make of those complaints? Are people just kind of whining, or is that really the reality of Hollywood today, for Black folks in particular?
Well, I think it's two things. Right now, again, because of this climate in Hollywood and the streaming services cutting things, everybody in Hollywood is feeling it, from the craft service and PAs to, all the way up. So you have that in general. So then, of course, it's going to affect our community more. And then, worldwide right now, or at least countrywide, all of these diversity programs, are disappearing. All of those jobs that were there to the watchdogs of diversity, they're disappearing. So, there are some promises that were not kept. People were, everyone, what happens is when it gets hard for everybody, then they blame us. And then all of a sudden we taking everybody's jobs, right? So I think it's not just a Hollywood problem, it's a countrywide problem that people don't care about what's right and equitable anymore as much as they.
So we're in the midst of this very contentious political season, election coming up in less than 55 days or so. Do you think who wins the presidential election, what impact? Do you think it will have, some impact on your industry? And, how does it look based on who the winner of the presidential race is?
I think, unfortunately, it will matter. I think, if Trump gets in again, I think it started with him and some of that rhetoric in the beginning, and him, stoking the flame and of getting rid of diversity, and it's not fair to the other side. That's part of the reason these diversity programs have disappeared. And if he's back in, it can only continue to get worse. And of course, if Kamala is there, then hopefully, things can get re-energized. I think that, I think the fact that people think in their mind, it's you're taking my job, but what made it your job in the first place? Mm-hmm. It's his job to go after.
Well, you would think, it's interesting, Salli, but you would think that there would be an expansion of jobs, and people need it, because when you think about the gazillion streaming sites, like I just had someone come over to help me fix a couple of televisions in my home, and one's a Google television, one's like an Amazon television. So we were just laughing at how both of them, you have to program them differently, put in your passwords, go through this whole process. But the number of streaming sites, is just it's just mind blowing how many sites there are that are streaming content 24/7. So it seems like there would be a greater need for both talent in front of the camera as well as those folks who work behind.
Well, what happened was there was a boom and people were working like crazy, but then all of a sudden the numbers came in, and the streamers who were spending all this money, it wasn't coming back to the company. And the number, what do they say, the math once wasn't mathing or something, so they've cut all of these budgets. They've cut a lot of shows, and they've cut all these episodes. And then the strike really hurt people badly, and those shows haven't rebooted themselves yet. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'd say in maybe the next year or two, things will even out. But that strike really, really hurt people, and the industry has not bounced back from it. And the strike changed the game for everyone right now.
Okay, but it didn't. A lot of the streaming sites haven't gone out of business. We've seen some consolidation. We've seen some, big companies eat up other companies. But still, if you just scroll through any of these, platforms, whether, like I said, you got a Google TV or an Amazon or Roku, there's still so many sites. There's so many stations, I should call them, or streaming platforms. They're still producing content. So, or not. So what are they doing to keep their subscriptions or subscribers, satiated with content?
pay grade, but I know that there are less shows. There are definitely less shows being made right now. Less shows right now, like trying to sell something and shows getting greenlit. It's just not happening right now. There's kind of this stoppage, and people waiting to see what's going to happen. I probably, around next year. So what happens in particular for then our community is if there's less work, then the few jobs that are out there to get, you're probably, all that diversity, when they were trying to let you in, they're going to go to the people who they know and the people who have been working all the time. And that's where the Black Hollywood community is feeling it. And, like I said, the whole industry, Black, white, Asian, everyone is feeling it, but we're going to feel it more because we aren't in control of it.
Right. So I want to talk about your transformation, your new journey. I said 20 years, you said 30 years as an actress, and now this transition, or 30 years ago or 20 years ago, what was the catalyst, I should say, for you saying acting's okay, but the real action for me is in directing? And what was that transition like for you? How was it one morning you just woke up and had an aha moment, like, I'm a good actress, but I think I'd be a better director? What was that whole process like for you?
Well, very quickly, I was doing a film with Ava DuVernay, which was her first narrative feature. And during that process, Ava, I probably had a little too much to say on set. I was one of those, actors giving their opinions. But at some point, Ava said to me, she goes, I think you're a director and you don't know it. And honestly, it was just her saying that. And I always say it was like sort of God's word coming through her to me. Just kind of sparked it in me. I said, I do kind of think like that. And I was on a series called Eureka at the time. And I called a director who had directed me there a few times that I really liked his work, and said, hey, can I shadow you? Ava gave me some tapes and some books. And I did, so I did that stuff. And then I asked my show, could I get a shot at directing? And again, I was very lucky. People, and this wasn't about diversity back then, they just trusted in me and gave me an opportunity. And when I got that opportunity, I went, after the first day or two, I went, oh, I understand this. I get this. It felt right. And then I started doing more. And a few years later, when I wasn't acting, I decided I was really ready to jump into it. And that's when I did Queen Sugar for Ava. And once I got Queen Sugar, honestly, I just started booking show after show after show, and did not realize that I was giving up acting. It was not the plan. The plan was to direct half the year. I was like, oh, I'm going to get a series. I'll act half of the year and direct half of the year. And then I just got so busy as a director that I never went back.
So do you miss acting at all?
Sometimes I do. I think that I miss it when I'm working with some of this, these incredibly talented people. And so I think that's when the show I've been shooting right before coming back here to Gilded is a new show for HBO called Task, starring Mark Ruffalo, and watching Mark Ruffalo, who is so amazing. I learned, I've been learning more from some of these actors. And it makes me think that if I came back as an actress, I would be even better. But I would have to find the time. Maybe one day, if I'm directing something where I'm perfect for it, I'll be back in it again.
Well, I'm thinking about Tyler Perry. Obviously he's a unicorn in some regards, but are there people that both direct and then put themselves in the project too?
Absolutely. Again, in Task, I did a small little role because there was something, it was like an attorney. I was like, I can do this real quick. So yeah, there's definitely, there's definitely a lot of people who do that. So eventually maybe I'll do a film and find my way back in it. I think that initially I as I started to direct more, I thought it important for me just to focus on directing, because I didn't want people to think that I wasn't serious about this new medium. You know, I wanted them to know that this is what I wanted to do, and it wasn't something that I was just dabbling in.
Right.
And I think that now that I command that respect and people know who I am as a director, I think I would feel more comfortable dabbling in both, because it wouldn't take away from what I'm doing as a director.
But your career is solidly as an actor. So, I mean, as a director, and if you do act in, a project or so, that's going to be occasionally.
Yes, yes. I love directing. I love being in control of the narrative. I love working with actors and helping them, flush out a character and get the best performance for them. And so I just love everything about it.
So tell us, I mean, people probably confuse a director from a producer from a writer. Like, how do you distinguish those three different roles? And sometimes people are playing multiple roles.
I mean, for me, as a producer, a lot of what I'm doing is finding, maybe when I get the script, working with the writer or giving my notes on the script of what holes I find as I'm directing, which kind of works as a director too. Maybe talking to talent who, we want to try to get on a project, helping, at this point, I know when something's going to cost us a little more, and I can do it this way, I can do it that way. So, I'm as of now on TV shows, I'm more of a creative producer rather than, I'm not really dealing with the finance part of it. Mm-hmm. So, and my writing is really more about, I'm not a writer. I don't, as of right now, I could not start from blank page. But if you give me a script that has some problems and holes, I can find it and maybe give you some ideas of how you can fix it. So I've gotten much better at that through working at HBO, because they really work on such a high level of their notes. I've been able to really figure out what makes a great script different from just a good script.
And so as a director, you're there, like as the scenes are being shot. Are you, literally hands-on telling the actor, stand here, stand there, say this differently, give me more oomph in that comment? Like, what are you doing?
I'm doing all of that. I'm also approving wardrobe. I'm approving things on the set. No, I need the chair over here. What are they going to eat during this scene? I have to make that decision. Where the along with my director of photography, where's the camera going to be? What shots are we going to do? How many shot setups are we going to do for this scene? All of that's my responsibility. So it's as an actor, there were times I would be bored on set, because you're only dealing with you. If you're not shooting, you're in your trailer, you're tired. You get bored. As a director, there is not a moment that I am not moving, pacing, making a decision, being asked a question. In between a setup, my assistant may come up and go, "Hey, can you look at this casting list? They need you to make a decision on who you're going to cast for this part." Okay. Oh, wardrobe wants you to look at this wardrobe. I'm like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. I got to shoot. I got to call action first, and then they cut. So it's constant decisions all day, every day. All night, every day. I constantly am waking up thinking about the scenes with great anxiety.
Wow. So somebody interested, some young person graduating from college, going to college, been out of college, whatever, that's thinking they want a career as a director. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would, first of all, going to film school is fantastic. It would have been wonderful. I did not get that opportunity. I sort of learned on the job, but they are going to very quickly find that they don't know as much as they think they do until they get on a real set. So as a film, I think there's two things. Make your film. For those kids who have their idea, you have to find those friends in film school who want to be a DP, who want to do all these different positions, and you all come together to make your film. If you don't have that, then work on a set. I learned there's so many like production assistants or camera operators, dolly operators, different positions on the set. You meet other people and everybody wants to do something different. They all want to grow. So these are your opportunities to meet people in the same industry who want to make a film too, and get it in a festival, get people seeing what you do. If you're a writer, write it and then maybe direct it yourself. There's no excuses nowadays because you can make your film on your phone. You can make it on anything. And so it's really about getting your project out there and in front of people. And if you are relentless about it and you don't give up, you will make it.
And it sounds like, Salli, obviously you're creative, you are an actress, but it sounds like as a director, you're also making a lot of decisions. I guess they're creative decisions, but the skill set, like, it doesn't necessarily translate to me that all actors have the skill sets to become directors.
No, they don't. I mean, you have to, again, that's why I said when I first did it, I went, oh, this is perfect for me. As my husband would, I can be a bit bossy at home. I can be a bit controlling. I'm very detail oriented. I think as a director does, I am very like it's about time management. A lot of it are your people skills. Like when you get to this point, it's not just dealing with the actors. Every actor is different. So you have to have that, but there's also the behind the stuff with different kinds of producers and studio people. It's a skill set of how to deal with people. And then you also have to have the creative side of it. So it's like creative meets, management skills. So it's a lot of things mixed together, and being able to see not only the little tiny things in a performance, but the big picture of what you have to shoot. So and you have to be comfortable being the center of it all and controlling it and making hard decisions all the time quickly. And it suits my personality.
Okay, you're a dominating personality. You have no problems ordering people around and being decisive. That's what you're decisive. You know what you want and you're not afraid to say it and get other people to follow along. Okay, what's next for you? History making nomination a couple of weeks ago, and now you said you're working on this amazing new project for HBO. What should we expect to see from Salli Richardson-Whitfield?
That's, right now that's it. That's the next show, is this show called Task, with starring Mark Ruffalo and written by Brad Inglesby, who did Mayor of Easttown, which was very successful show for HBO. And the next season of HBO, which is what I'm, for the Gilded Age, which is what I'm shooting right now.
When does that drop, Salli?
Gilded Age or Task?
Gilded Age, or both?
Well, Gilded Age, I think, is early next year, I think. So that's going to be soon. The Task, I think, is going to be a little while. I'm not sure when that one, but that's at least another year. Okay. So it'll be Gilded and then Task, and then I'll, probably in the next month or two, I'll know what the next project is. And then I have a few films that I have in development, because, that's really the next big thing, is to have my first feature. So there's a lot of things that happen.
You heard it here on KBLA. Her next big thing is her own film, her feature on the big screens. Thank you so much, Salli. Congratulations again. I'm going to keep following you on Instagram. I love seeing all the beautiful shots of you, your family, and just what an amazing experience this was for you. And keep breaking those glass ceilings for Black women, Black people in the entertainment industry. We see you, we love you, and we got your back.